Dave here on the Truckee River, Nevada. I'm fly fishing guide here. Current Fly Fishing is my company. And today I'm going to show you guys a little bit about Euro-Nymphing or tightline nymphing with a streamer. That's something we like to do here to get those bugs down deep and see what kind of fish we can peel off the bottom. What we're using today is a 10-foot 5-weight. This is an Orvis Clearwater. It's a standard fly fishing rod. It's not a Euro-Nymphing rod, so it's not extra noodly or anything like that. It's got some backbone to it. You know, we're throwing heavier flies and we're hoping to catch some heavy fish too. You know, the leader setup we have is a 20-pound nylon monofilament. There's about 25 to 30 feet of that on the reel. Behind that you can see is a standard fly fishing line. I like to do it this way, just gives you options. If you want to switch it up and do something different, you can always take that tight line leader off and switch it back to a regular setup. The end of that leader, we've got a cider material. It's Orvis's 0X cider, orange, yellow, just about 1.5 feet of that. And then we've got about 7 to 8 feet of 2X fluorocarbon tippet. On the end of that is tied our sculpin pattern. This one got wet. It kind of look like that. Anyhow, something we have in the river here. Sometimes the fish will eat it. We'll see if they can do that today for us. Tied on a little loop knot, give it a little extra action, just one single fly. So we're gonna get it out there and see what we can do. You know, one of the things when you're fishing this way, it's really important. It's all about keeping tension in the line. So when you're nymphing with this way, you're not mending, you're not putting slack out there. You're casting a certain amount of line out and you're paying attention to the cider material. That cider material isn't really an indicator. It's not really telling you if there's a fish biting. It's telling you how deep your fly's on. You've got to kind of remember how long of a distance you have between your fly, your bottom fly if you have two, and your cider material. Engage that depth. You know, whatever's underneath the water, the remaining amount of line will be on top near the cider. So keeping that cider over the water, the relative depth to how deep you think it is. Of course, I always tell folks it's way better to err on the side of shallow. Start shallow, work your way deep. It's a much better bet. The last thing you want to do is hang the bottom snag on your first cast. So err on the side of shallow. As your fly sinks down and gets to depth, you'll notice it starts to move a lot slower downriver. Well, it's showing you what the actual speed of the current is near the bottom. Now, you don't need to touch the bottom to catch fish like this. You don't need to drag the bottom. And feeling for a grab. It's all very feeling based with this setup. Now, these bites can range from they attack it like a freight train, or it's very subtle. They just open their mouth, take it in, and spit it out. So it's in your best interest, even if you've been doing this a while, just start setting the hook on any little thing you feel. Now, because we're fishing a streamer pattern, adding a little extra activity down there. Let it get to depth. Give it a jig. Bump it. Let it swing. Move it around a little bit. Now, because the flies we're using are so heavy, you can do things with this type of setup that you can't normally do with real light flies on a tightline nymphing setup. You know, tightline nymphing, whatever form, it's kind of a blend. It's a hybrid between fly fishing and spin fishing. To me, at least, it seems that way. You're using spin fishing line. I mean, you've got a fly rod, you got flies on the end, you've got a fly reel. It comes with the same challenges when fighting a fish. However, you're missing a key component of fly fishing gear, and that's the weighted line. You've eliminated that with that nylon line. So casting it in the traditional way, overhead or roll casting, just doesn't work. What I end up doing a lot, which is real similar to a spin fishing cast, is stripping a lot of line in, so retrieving it almost all the way. I've got that cider material just about 1 foot under the rod tip. Bring that rod over to the side and give it a flick, holding the line, letting go after that flick. The flies are heavy, so you can shoot them quite far. One of the biggest things I tell clients with this is, when you take the bobber away, you take the weighted line away, take the bobber away, you gain a lot of control over the fly. You can be very precise at what depth it's at, where you're fishing it in the water column. But it also comes with a lot of responsibility. There's nothing holding it up off the bottom either. One of the things I see people do with this a lot that's, get complaints from clients if they've been doing this for a while, is they're up here like this positioning. Just like any sport, there are efficient body movements. There are efficient positions to be in. Movement patterns that are going to work better for you. I always tell people, fish with your hand below your heart, down here. Try to avoid having your hands up above your head. You're going to fatigue very quickly. That arm's going to get tired and you'll be fishing less. So none of us want that. Fish with your hand below your heart and you're going to have a lot more energy throughout the day. What's required, because you're sacrificing a little bit of rod length, right? Rod's an extension of the arm. Sacrificing a little bit of elevation there, you're going to have to put out a little more line than what you may be used to. With the high arm, with the high rod, you could get away like that, right? You get a nice steep angle into the water, but you might only get so many of those drifts before your arm's dead. You can get a fairly comparable drift, keeping that hand below the heart, letting more line out, using your wrist to angle the rod upwards. Well, let's move down this hole and see if we can catch a fish. There's a fish. And it's a good one. Well, Blue, that fish is as big as you. Oh! Get out of there. No. Hey. You might fish along. Good. Good. One of your fish. Get out of here. There it is, Truckee River, Nevada, rainbow. I don't know, 20 something. Beautiful rainbow. Hey. Catch and release, Blue. Catch and release. There it is, tie line nymphing with a streamer. It works. Solid fish, that was awesome. Couldn't have worked any better. Let's go catch a fish. And then first cast. Blue was, you saw the dog earlier. Blue's trying to eat the fish as I'm trying to release it. She doesn't quite get the whole catch and release thing, but we're working on it. Other than that, she's a good fishing dog. So, hooking a fish like that, kind of just a recap of what I felt on my end, because, it's hard to see what I'm feeling in the rod, right? And I have the same issue when I'm fishing with clients and guiding them in this technique. I can't see what they feel. And just how important it is to kind of fish paranoid. You kind of have to be a little paranoid. Every little tick or bump, even if you kind of know it's the bottom, just set the hook anyway. Just give it a little twitch, because a lot of times it might not be the bottom. It might be a fish. And when you start doing that, you'll start setting the hook on little things, you know, just a little bump. Oh, it could have been a stick, rock, whatever. You'll catch more fish, I guarantee it. It will surprise you how subtle some of these grabs are. That was a big fish. That was a very subtle grab, barely tapped it. So, you know, that's kind of my advice there. Stay paranoid, be fishing it, you know. You don't know until you set the hook and you find out. So think of like hook set is kind of like checking to see. Check and see, check and see. You don't even have to pull your fly all the way out of the water, just a little check. And if you feel like it's alive, go ahead and put the pressure on it. It's raining now, but you know, the fish don't care. It's already wet. So let's try again. So one of the things I find when fishing this way, you know, as compared to, you know, traditional way you fish streamers, weighted line, sink tip, float line, cast across, strip, jerk, that sort of presentation is, you know, the type of fish that you'll catch. You know, it tends to be that you'll catch a wider range with this, you know, size-wise, and also a fair amount of rainbows. When we fish the other technique, which I'd love fishing, especially out of the boat, casting, retrieving as we're on the move, it's a great way to fish it. We almost exclusively catch brown trout that way. It's pretty rare to have a rainbow eat, especially the streamers that we're throwing in that way too. Larger articulated streamers, you know, moving them really aggressively. You're making the target look alive or look like it's struggling to be alive. With this, it's maybe a little different. Maybe the presentation is what does it. I mean, one, you're able to get the fly down to depth a lot more effectively. You know, a lot of times with stripping and that presentation with a regular weighted line setup, we're casting towards the bank. We're fishing a lot of shallow water. And that's typically where we find these bigger brown trout hanging out in that water that you would probably stand in if you were wade fishing, you know, from the boat. You know? So it's interesting, the results that you get. And one of the cool things with this setup, you can cast it and retrieve it, kind of like you would. Send a cast across, jerk and strip, just like you would with a weighted line setup. Try to get that grab on the move, but you'll notice the fly doesn't sink very far. When you turn it around and you fish it tight line style, allow that fly to get down to depth, you're picking on fish that are doing something different. You know, they're not actively hunting. They're not willing to chase a target like your previous presentation. So, kind of interesting. Different presentation, different kinds of fish, wider range of fish. Just something I've noticed streamer fishing on the Truckee, which is definitely one of my favorite ways to fish this river. It's a challenge. Sometimes it's really tough. Got another one. Switched up the fly a little bit, not too different, but see if I can hold them up for you. Blue, get out of here. Nice big rainbow. Pretty one, big male. Not your fish, Blue. Get out of here. Leave him alone. This is the fly we were using right here. A little bit bigger. You can see it's articulated. It's got a jig head on it, real heavy, 2 hooks. Nice big rainbow. That guy came kind of on the strip, so cast it across and working it across, not fishing it super deep. Tail end of a hole. You never know what you're gonna get. Well, I hope you guys found this video useful. A little tutorial on streamer fishing with a tight line European style nymphing setup. As you saw, it's successful, it works. Yeah, so there's no one way to do things. There's always little things you can do. Anyhow, tune in for more, and yeah, we'll see what else we can get you into.